Hi everyone and welcome back to the Beginners FreeCAD series for version 1. In the previous video, we introduced the concepts of patterning and the tools available in the Part Design Workbench. In this lesson, we'll explore how to use the three primary patterning tools: linear, polar, and mirror. Before we dive into each tool, it's important to understand how patterns are applied to your model, along with some general rules that apply to all patterning methods. Patterns are applied to either a specific part design feature or features or the body as a whole. To begin, let's create a simple body that we will later mirror. We will build the following model using three features. So I'm in the part design, I've created a new document, and I'm going to create a new body and a new sketch along the XY plane. Now for mirroring, we'll use the axes that, as you can see on the screen. So I'm going to create a very simple rectangle. I'm going to connect it up to the vertical axis. Right click to cancel the tool and take these 2 points and the center point and use the symmetrical constraint. So this is on the left side of the axis running down this way. We're going to mirror it over this axis, but also we're going to mirror it over the edge. Let's add some dimensions using the dimensioning tool, and we'll set the top to 25 millimeters. And the side to 40 millimeters. We're fully constrained, we can close, we can take the sketch and add a pad of say around 2 millimeters. So we're building one side of the model. Let's select the top face and create a sketch. This time we'll add 2 circles. Right click to cancel, and we'll take the center points and keep them in line with each other. Next, we use the import geometry tool to create external geometry and import the corner at the top. Therefore, we can use the dimensioning tool and dimension the center point of this circle by clicking on the center point and then clicking on the corner, and we'll bring the dimension out and we'll place it 4 millimeters away from the edge. Let's do the same for the horizontal as well, taking the corner point and the middle point. We'll come up and set this to 4 as well. We've locked the horizontal and vertical placement of this circle, and because of the vertical constraint, we only need to add a single distance away from this point. Or I could use symmetry, taking these 2 points and this line and using a symmetrical constraint. So now this is constrained. We've still got 2 degrees of freedom. So I'm going to take these 2, make them equal, and then I'm going to use the dimensioning tool. We've got 1 degree of freedom. I'm going to add a diameter, and we'll set this to 4. So fully constrained, we'll close, and we'll create a pocket through that sketch of 1 millimeter and hit OK. One last feature, select the top face and create a sketch. I'm going to create a rectangle in here, so use the rectangle coincident to the vertical axis and bring the rectangle out. Right click to cancel, take the 2 points of the rectangle and finally the center point, use the symmetrical constraint and then use the dimensioning tool. And we'll place a dimension across the top of 15, hit OK, the dimensioning tool is still available, and we'll place 1 across the side of 20 and hit OK. Let's close out the sketch and create the pad and pad this by 1 millimeter and hit OK. So we've got the features, and we're going to rename these features. So the first feature we'll set to feature 1, feature 1 pad. The second one, the pocket, rename that to feature 2, feature 2 pocket, and the third feature, rename the pad to feature 3. The reason why I'm doing this makes it easy on the demonstration, because order matters when we start to mirror and pattern. Now we have our base model, let's explore how patterning works. We have multiple features in our model. All of these can be patterned. Let's begin with the simplest case, patterning the entire body. First of all, we need to select the body from the tree view. we can see it's all selected in green. And then we apply the pattern. In this case, we'll use the mirror, also known as mirrored. If we select the pattern, we can see that's been mirrored already over a plane. When we apply a pattern, we're actually creating something called a transform. These transforms generate a sort of parametric clone of the selected feature or features. Since we selected the whole body, the option Transform Body has been selected in the parameters. This selection tells FreeCAD what to pattern. In this case, all the features that make up the body. The panel will also confirm that the transformation was successful. FreeCAD applies the transform across a plane. With the mirrored pattern, the results are reflected. As you can see, it's been applied to the base XY plane and reflected over there. Since we're modeling the part with just one side, that's changed the plane. We can drop this down and select the YZ plane. This plane here. And you can see it's been reflected over that plane. There is also a reference that we can select. If we drop the plane down, we can select reference. If I bring this around to the side, we can select a face. So now I've patterned across that face, creating the reflection of the mirror. There are other references that we can use. For instance, if I go back in, I can select reference again and select a face, so on the top, or I could use a datum plane. And we'll get to that in another lesson. For the time being, let's go back to the YZ plane. If I hit OK, you can see the mirror has been added to the tree view. So we have our history, a clear parametric sequence of features including the original sketches, pads, pockets, and now the mirror, all of which can be edited or reordered as needed. We can continue working on the mirrored feature just like any other. For example, by adding a new sketch to the top face here, and let's say we add a circle and close, we can create a pocket. Let's reduce it down to around about 1 millimeter and hit OK. We can also go back. Let's go back to feature 2, which is the pocket, and double click the sketch. So we can edit features underneath. Let's say we add an additional hole in here and hit close. We can see that the feature is propagated up and been mirrored to the other side. So let's come back in and delete the pocket, the sketch that was released from the pocket, and the mirrored. Going back to our original features, what we demonstrated is how to mirror a body. Patterning allows you to pattern features as well, not just bodies. So we can select a feature or features from the tree view in a certain order to pattern. So for example, if we select feature 3 and use the mirrored, we're only mirroring feature 3. I'll cancel that and select feature 1 and feature 3 by holding down the control key and selecting feature 3. Those two features will be mirrored, but we won't get feature 2, which is the pocket. Let's cancel that. If I just take feature 2 and try to mirror that, nothing will happen. And this is because it's a subtractive feature. It's a pocket. If we mirror the feature across the plane, it's got nothing to subtract to. There's nothing there. Mirroring feature 1 and control selecting feature 2 and using those both in a mirror, then we get that feature applied. So we've got a pad, the first one, and then a pocket. Let's cancel that. Let's reverse the order. So we're taking pocket first, then control selecting the pad, and then creating the mirror. You can see we've only got one feature. And this is because these are out of order. The pocket has been applied, and then the feature has been applied. We can drag the pocket underneath the pad to put them in the correct order, creating our final result. Let's hit OK. Now let's revisit something we mentioned earlier, a failed transformation. I'm going to delete the mirror. Click on it and hit delete. And now I'm going to create a feature upon this pad here. Create a new sketch and add, say, a circle. I'm going to add the circle here. Let's hit close. We'll create a simple pad of about 1 millimeter. I'm going to take that pad, select it, and create the mirror. Now we notice we got the red circle here. This is a copy of the pad. You can see it's transformed over the YZ plane. We've got vertical sketch axis, which is the same in this case for the YZ plane. And we notice at the top that one transformed shape does not intersect the support. So this is the support. Remember when we was talking about the pocket, we was pocketing into space. Because we're using a pad this time, we're actually creating volume rather than taking it away. It's in orange because although it's not been successful, we can still use that. If I hit OK, we see this warning. Transformed result has multiple solids, only keeping the first. The body only allows for a single solid, unless we click on the body, look in the experimental, and the allow compound. If we set this to true, this becomes a compound now. We click off, we can see the transformed result. So we have to be mindful about that when transforming via a pattern. We see failed transformations a lot with linear patterns. And that's because we're seeding the length of the volume. We'll get to linear patterns in a moment. We've learned how to use the mirror operation. And in doing so, we've covered the basic rules for applying other patterning tools, linear and polar. These follow the same flow, with the main difference being the arrangement of the pattern and the available options. With this in mind, let's move on to our next patterning tool, the linear pattern. The linear pattern creates a repeating pattern of a body, feature or features in a straight line. This can be along an axis or a reference. Let's create a simple model to demonstrate this. As usual, we're in the part design. I've created a new document. Create a new body and a new sketch along the XY plane. I'm going to create a slot across this line here, coincident to the horizontal axis. Bring this out and we'll set this to 10 millimeters. Right click to cancel and use the dimensioning tool and set a distance between these 2 points. Bring this up and set this to 60 millimeters. I want to create some holes in here, but I'm going to use patterning to determine how many holes I want across this slot. So I can't create a circle in here because we won't be able to pattern it. I have to use another profile. So first we'll take the sketch and create the pad. I'm just going to set this to 1 millimeter. We use the top face by selecting it and create a sketch. Let's import some geometry by using the external geometry tool and select the circular edge. To import this point, come up and use the circle and we'll constrain coincident to that point. Bring this out and set a dimension of 10 millimeters. Now I've got that circle in here. Let's close, select the sketch and create a pocket. We've set it to 5 millimeters. We'll just go through all and hit OK. Now I'm going to add a chamfer. And this is just to create another feature within here. Use the chamfer. It's going to fail because it's going to be 1 millimeters. The pad is 1 millimeters, so I need 0.5 millimeters. And click off. That's taken. Let's hit OK. So now what we've got is the pocket and the chamfer, which I want to pattern. So the pad, again, let's rename these, is feature 1. The pocket is feature 2. And the chamfer is feature 3. Now we have our features. Let's apply a linear pattern. Now in some cases we would pattern the whole body. If we did this, note our allow compound is false. If we create the linear pattern and zoom out, you see we have the warning on the left hand side here. One transformed shape does not intersect the support. And you can see the shapes are not intersecting until I increase the occurrences. Now the reason why is because remember this is 60 millimeters. So we're looking at the overall length here. On the mode, overall length is 100 millimeters. So this has been transformed 100 millimeters. And if we increase the occurrences, what's happened is it's fitted 3 occurrences in the 100 millimeters, which creates a solid. So now it's intersecting. So we change the overall length to offset. This is not recommended because we're creating multiple pattern operations just to create a simple solid, where we can do this with one sketch. In some cases, we may want to have multiple objects like this transformed, and we can allow that in the body as before. Allow compound, set to true, and click off, and we can see them there, but it's only for very specific use cases. Let's delete that linear pattern. The most used use case is to pattern a feature. So let's take the pocket and control select the chamfer and create the linear pattern. We need to take into account how far away our last feature will be once transformed. By setting the distance in the length field by 60, we can see it's been transformed to the correct position. Remember that our distance from the center of this circle was 60 millimeters to the center point of this arc in our slot geometry. If I change the occurrences now to 3, we can see we get another transform of the features fitted into this length. And if we increase this again, we get the 4. When we change the mode to offset, our offset automatically adjusts from our length. So these are 20 millimeters away now. And if I increase this, we can see them moving. So we're leaving a 20 millimeter gap between. Again, we have direction. So we can change the direction and even select a reference. The same rules apply. We can change the order, we can add features, and we can remove features as well by right clicking and clicking remove. So I've removed the chamfer, and you can see with these holes, there is no chamfer there. Let's hit OK. Now let's take a look at the polar pattern. This again creates a repeating pattern of a body feature of features, but this time in degrees of an arc around an axis or a reference. Again, we can supply an occurrence, and they will be spaced evenly around the circle or arc. Let's create a simple model to demonstrate this. In the part design, we'll create a new body and a new sketch along the XZ plane. We'll create 2 circles, an outer of 100 millimeters and an inner which I've just dropped in. So let's use the dimensioning tool and we'll set that one to 75 millimeters. Let's hit close, select the sketch and create a pad of 8 millimeters. So we have this ring. I select the top face and create a sketch. We'll use a circle and create a circle on this line. I'm just going to drop the circle in for the time being and hit close. The sketch is selected, we can see it there, and we use the pocket. Let's hit OK and also add a small chamfer. Again, so we have multiple operations, and hit OK. So we have our feature. We can rename the features. The pocket as feature 2. And finally, the chamfer as feature 3. So the same applies. We control select the features that we want, this time using the polar pattern. The axis is the normal sketch axis. So the sketch that we created, its normal is in this direction. Might be easier to select, say in this case, the base y-axis for a better understanding of where this is going to sit. So we've got the angle here. So I can set this to say 180 and increase the occurrences. And then we're patterning only one side. Again, we've got the mode, overall angle, and offset angle. So here we have 120 degrees between each occurrence. And we can increase those. And we can see them there. The axis also has a reference. Now this allows us to select, say, a datum line. So we can change where the axis actually sits. And we'll get into datum objects further into this chapter. On the note of the axis, let's OK that and create another sketch. This time I want a pattern along this edge here. So we make sure nothing's selected and we use the base planes, creating a sketch along the plane that is nearest aligned to what we want. So here you can see the plane intersects the object in the center. Let's come over to the model and select the sketch. Go down to the attachment offset, position, and we can see the red, the X, and the green, the Y. So we need to change this because the Z axis is normal to sketch, so it runs this way. We change the Z axis, you can see it's bringing it this way. It's going to hit the up arrow and just bring it outside. So now it sits outside of our ring. Use a circle. Look from the top. I'm going to zoom in and just add a circle in here. I'm not going to constrain it. This is just for demo purposes. Come to task and hit close. So I've got the circle sketch sitting here. Let's create a pocket. Now, because it's sitting here, the length at the moment is 5mm. So we need to go quite a way until it starts intersecting the face. You can see it intersecting there. We may have to even select reverse, depending on how our sketch is mapped. Let's pocket this down slightly and hit OK. The closer the sketch is to the surface, obviously the more accurate that's going to be. So we have our pocket. Let's create another polar pattern. Now at the moment, the polar pattern is going normal to sketch axis. So it's going around this way. We want it to go around this way. So if we look at the axes, we've got the Y, X and Z. So we need to pick the Y. We drop this down and pick the base Y axis and increase the occurrences. And you can see the pattern being placed around the edge of the circle. So let's set this to something like 8 occurrences. And we can see them in there. And let's hit OK. So now we've created 2 patterns, 2 polar patterns on one object. We've dived a bit deeper into the patterning. In our next video, we'll apply the patterning to some practical projects. I hope you enjoyed that lesson, and I hope to see you in the next video. If you like what you see and you want to donate to the channel, then you can do so via Ko-Fi or Ko-Fi at ko-fi.com/MANG0 or via PayPal at paypal.com/paypalme/DarrenBEstone. I also run a Patreon where you can get early access and additional content, and that's at patreon.com/MangoJelly Solutions. Links can be found in the channel header, on the About page, or in the descriptions of these videos. I thank everybody that's donated so far. It really helps to keep the lights on so I can produce more content and also expand the channel. Thank you for liking, commenting and subscribing to these videos, and I hope to see you again in the next one.